It's Total Warhead, and in this video I want to spend some time basically taking the battle tips encyclopedia video that I created, which is about 3 hours long, and just break it down into subsections, right? That's something I wanted to do, and this is one of them. So this first one is just going to be about the menu and UI based capabilities that the game has, so you can get ready to actually do battles in Troy and have as much knowledge as possible in terms of the backend and the front end UI access that you can manipulate, since there are options that are outside of the game scope, or in the files, and then within the game menu that you can also manipulate. Without further ado, let's get started. So if you're new to the battles of Total War, or if you're advanced in Total War but haven't taken your hands into Troy, you can do basic tutorial battle and advanced tutorial battle within the battles submenu of the game menu. Oh my god, I just mentioned menu like 50 times here. So you can just utilize these two options here to get your hands dirty initially, and then to get them muddy afterwards, so you can get a very good idea of battles if you don't really want to be listening to me, which you already did, but I guess you can enjoy the rest of the tips that are in this video. Now, say that you are running the game, right, and you're trying to set the graphic settings in such a way that if you are in battle and if you are in the campaign map, you can rest assured that your FPS will try to stay above 60 FPS, so you have a very smooth recording if you want to record or just play. So the way that you do this is, you can start off with high, ultra, medium, or whatever the game recommends. Right off the bat, you start off with those settings. Then you go to benchmark, and you do all three of these benchmarks, and when you run them, just make sure that your FPS, when you do these benchmarks, are above like 55, try to stay as close to 60 or higher than 60 as possible. There are some settings here that I can tell you are the heavy hitters if you turn them on. Anti-aliasing, once you start getting to 2x or higher, it gets crazy how much it affects you. Unlimited video memory can affect you as well. SSAO, shadow quality going to ultra or extreme can heavily affect you as well. And these are just, I think, the primary ones that really affect you negatively. Oh, and unit size is a big one. So this is one that you gotta try to really keep track of when you are playing. Once you go to extreme, you can see some heavy hits to your FPS. It is also critical that you can, not only doing those three things, you take it one step further and you go to custom battle. You maybe auto-generate an entire army, and then you go to Troy with the walls, and then you just start the battle. Just start it as it is, as default settings on everything. The reason why I say this is because once you have a large map with 20 units or 15 to 20 units across, both, two armies, you can potentially get into a very heavy scenario where you have a lot of workload for your GPU and CPU to do. So this is like the final test to make sure that your settings graphically are really good, and therefore you can proceed to potentially, if you want to, record your gameplay or anything else that you want to do, perhaps just to have a better, gaming experience. Now, in terms of the settings here, I could really care less about, okay, let me not say that, because I want the game to look good. I'm playing the game, I really want it to look good. So there is one setting that I suggest based on my gaming experience with the game across many siege battles. I really want to focus on the keyword siege. So unit size, if you want really epic battles with really large armies or unit model counts, you can go to extreme and really push it to have really large unit sizes. Now, once you go to sieges, you're gonna notice that large is the sweet spot. The reason why I say this is because, say you bring like 6 to 8 missile units, and you start getting, if you're attacking the siege and you get within the siege, and you want to start placing those 6 to 8 missile units like in certain locations in the alleyways, pathways, within the gate walls or the siege walls, you're gonna run into some issues with placement of units as you're trying to move them on the map. So as these units get larger, you can only put so many units in smaller areas in the map. So say where you could traditionally maybe on large put 3 units, once you start going to ultra or extreme, you could potentially only be able to put 1 unit in that same pathway where you could put 3 units on large. Additionally, large is a pretty good sweet spot where the game actually has a good balance design across it. And I think the multiplayer plays on large, I'm not mistaken. Somebody in the comments can correct me from the multiplayer scene if unit size on the multiplayer battles is actually ultra or large. But for sieges and for campaign, I really find that large is the best spot to just not have that many issues with unit placement throughout siege battles. Now, about blood settings, not much to go here. I play it maxed out. YOLO, don't care. I want to see all the blood in the world. Now, some people don't really like the buckets of blood in the campaign when you do this. I personally like it because once you start getting to the late game and you start getting these units that really destroy a lot of unit models really fast, you can just see blood splatter like crazy, showcasing just how strong the unit is and how fast it's killing enemy units. That's why I primarily like to play with this all maxed out. If you think this is just too much, I suggest you drop it to about 100 and 100%. That is just from a general usage standpoint in the past. There might be some people in the comments that might say, hey man, you know, I've used it across different settings. I prefer 75%, 125%. So, if you find something that is more optimal to you, leave it in the comments. Me, myself, man, I max it out and have fun with it. There's actually a use case for actually having this maxed out, I've noticed in battles, is that say you have an epic hero and you put the epic hero in a large blob of units and you're just running through the battle. You're not really paying attention to the icons of what units are which, and you're just trying to remember, oh, I had the epic hero somewhere around here. Well, looking at the blood splatter within the blob that the epic hero is in, you can try to make out, visually, not necessarily looking at the unit cards or the icons above the units, what unit is there in the battlefield. In terms of audio settings, I usually leave these all maxed out. There is one that people in multiplayer like to bring down, and it is music, because music can kind of, raise your blood pressure, not blood pressure, but like the intensity. So by lowering music, you can just follow the motions of the battle without having music manipulate the intensity, your nervousness, or anxiety as you're going into like a big battle in like a tournament or something like that. So it's a good suggestion here, just lower the music down. It might seem a bit abrupt at first, but in the long run, when you're doing battles against other players, it'll help you with lowering some potential anxiety that you might be feeling, and have a smoother sailing throughout the battle. Now, in terms of the keys, when you're playing, so there are universal campaign and battle settings where you can just go through and set different settings that you want to utilize. I really don't change any of these, if I remember correctly, across any of them. If I do manipulate anything, I'm not sure if cinematic smoothing ends up a bit lower than this. I like it maxed out. And I like the standard camera, although some people like to manipulate the camera setting, not just here, but in the preferences.script file. So if you do any changes to your settings across the game, right, across all these settings, you can save keys or load them, and they should be found in that app data creative assembly Troy folder that we discussed in other tips. There's a very important tab here that I want to talk about in controls. So there are kind of advanced techniques or things you can do in battle that could be really good for you that might not be visible just by going through the settings here. So it might be good just to go through all of these settings, just read them, try to remember them, and then practice them in custom battle. And this could potentially help you big time to try to manipulate units in different ways than just clicking right click on the battle, and potentially become more strategic or have more capabilities on your hands when you're doing battles against other players or the AI. There is one section of the controls I want to go in depth with, and this is really useful when you're trying to micro units by the type of units that you have in the battle. So there is something you can do here, and it is control infantry, control cav, and control missiles. Control I, control C, control M. Those three key combinations let you select melee infantry, cav units, and missile infantry units when you are in battle. This will really help you with potentially managing micro. If you're moving all your cavs in a certain way, all missile units to shoot at one thing, or anything like that. Additionally, for the abilities that your heroes have, you can select the abilities with the Alt 1 through Alt 6 here, so then you can have a faster time selecting the units instead of using mouse movement to go for them. There are a lot more controls here to go over. I suggest you just go through them and get the hang of them. Now, there's one very important feature in Troy that many people asked for in Warhammer once it came out for Troy, I believe, and it is called photo mode. Photo mode lets you take really epic cinematic screenshots of the game when you are looking at it through replays. So you load a replay, you start to watch the battle, and then once you are here, you either press escape, go to photo mode, or you do F2 key, and then the game pauses where you decided to stop. And here you can start taking screenshots. Now you might notice something around the back or around the image of the game as it is right now, and it is the logo and like I think it's called a backdrop or a wallpaper. So anyways, let me make sure I'm not here, speaking gibberish. So you press tab and then you can see all the options here of what photo mode lets you do. So I'm gonna go into details here. I'm kind of like a rookie at this. I've taken one epic picture with this for one thumbnail in a video, but you can take it to the next level. There is actually a phenomenal modder that has taken unbelievable images in photo mode. His name is Raf. I think it's SWI7. I might get his name wrong, but he'll probably appear in the comments, or you might see him down the line in some mods that you look for Troy. Anyways, some things that you can find here. You can do frames. You can change the vignette intensity around the edge, making it look a bit darker. You can add a vignette fall off, like to basically, I think, like change if it is from the edges towards the center of the image, I think. I mean, I'm just speaking out loud here as I'm changing things. You can change the aspect ratio. You can change the frame to look different. Now it's a copper setting. Let's go to darkness. Ooh, intense. And then you have the logo. So say that you want to take an epic picture for a thumbnail or YouTube. This is an easy way to do this. And then once you do this, you decide to take the photo by pressing space, and it'll save in a folder in your computer, which you can find by pressing browse. And then you have filters to change the color topography, I think that's how you call it, of the image in front of you. You can do documentary, midnight, desert. Let me see, anything cool here? Red Storm. Yeah, Red Storm looks like there's actually a desert. Sparta, really like dark, like the movie 300. Noir and Blood, it doesn't look that good. Legendary. So anyways, different little filters that you can change, or you can just leave it at default as it is, or any of them, and then edit the settings here. Then you have a camera. You can change where the camera is actually focusing in the depth of field to one of the heroes of the enemy army, a Cyclops, Minotaur, or Penthesilea, who is my own epic hero. Then you can do focus distance to change the focus in the far back based upon where the hero is. Here, f-stop, not sure. Oh shit, fading stop, I believe that's what that's called. I mean, from what I'm seeing here. Field of view, I'm not sure how much this changes that. Anyways, there's a lot of settings here. I have no idea what I'm changing on some of them. And then finally, you have skybox changes. So this is like on the outside, I think, or basically like the weather, the shadows, how they look for the battle, to kind of change the intensity of what's going on in the battlefield. Like you can change the God Ray effects, make them a bit stronger. This will probably go really well with the Mythos release, as there will be more background stuff like epic statues of giant. Are they called giants? The ones that went against the gods? Oh my god, dude! I have nothing. I have my mythological history is like in the gutter, and I loved Troy growing up. So, anyways, this is a lot of little neat things in photo mode. You can spend more time here learning more about it, and yeah, look at what Rav SWX7 has done in screenshots across the Total War Discord and other places, and you can see the awesome things you can possibly do here. A neat thing that you can do in a Total War Saga Troy is that when you see a replay, you can either watch the replay where you can see photo mode, or you can actually refight the battle. So say you want to send a replay to someone so they can have a chance to fight the battle themselves and potentially try to do what you did, then you can do that by sending them the replay file and then click and letting them click fight battle here. You're not letting them, the game is letting them click fight battle. Or they can watch the replay as well, or you can just watch yourself, killing some, enemies, having some fun, and potentially take some heads, take some names. So in Troy, you're gonna have the capabilities of doing multiplayer battles and quick battles. This is similar to Warhammer, where you can go to multiplayer battles and find existing games that people have created or host your own. You can also do them, across local network, passworded games, etc. Multiple different feature sets. You also have quick battle, where you can basically go into an automatic search system to find battles with other players, and from there, have some fun. You can do up to 4 players on each side in battles, and there are actually free-for-all battles in Troy. In this game, you also have the capabilities of chats. So you can do a public chat room here and select players here. You can just communicate with everybody, and then you can do toggle minimal mode, I guess, so you don't see anybody else. You can also create a room or have room lists to communicate with specific sets of people, and then you have friends lists to find friends. Something to point out is that if you do quick battles and you try to invite players to increase quick battles to be up to 4 players searching at once, you know, in one team, you can only invite your friends, not just random people. So make sure you add people to your friends list if you want to group up for quick battles at the very least, or see them in the friends list tab here. I also like to have in the battle interface, and this is up to you, this is just my preferences. So I like to do default run so units move faster in the battle. Note that this might be detrimental if you use heavy units, as they tend to get fatigued as they traverse the map a bit faster. And then I like to have guard mode so I don't have units just getting out of formation or locations on the map without, you know, noticing. So I like to keep it in guard mode, and if I want any units to chase other units, then I turn off guard mode so they keep chasing after units. What happens here is, say that a unit's engaging another and the other unit decides to route or run away. I think those are the main reasons. Then with guard mode, your unit will not continue following that unit. It'll stay where it is. Now, you would think that perhaps all of the different types of battles in multiplayer have the same funds for both the attacker and the defender. It is not the case for siege battles and minor settlement battles. For siege battles, the defender has 70% less funds than the attacker. And then if we go to minor settlement battles, let's make sure that there are no units here. The attacker has 100%, but the defender has 90%. So respectfully, defenders get 90% for minor settlement battles, and for siege battles, they get 70%. Something to keep track of is that there are caps to units in multiplayer. So an easy basis or an easy way to find out which units there are is, number 1, faction unique units have caps on them. So if I hover over all of these units, you can see that they have caps on them. Chariots also have caps, and then mythical units as well. So for sirens, if I select one, I can't select another one because there's a cap of 1 per army. Now, when it comes to UI in battles, it is probably one of the most important things for you to try to manage. So when you click the spacebar button, you see this right hand menu that appears. So by looking at this here, you can decide what information to showcase in the battle. If you click this lockbox, it'll make sure that it appears once you stop pressing the spacebar. So let's actually try to test this and see how things look. Character auras is the leadership, or the character aura, right? The leadership effect that the unit that a leader has in the battle. So if you disable this, it doesn't appear anymore in the battle like that. Now, if I enable it again, bam, you can see it. The same thing goes with the yellow hue on your own units and the red on the enemy units. Movement paths removes that red line that Penthesilea has as it's attacking those units all the way at the far end. Then you have firing arcs. For missile units, it'll show you their shooting range, right? Because you'll see their entire arc that they can shoot from in their current position. You can hide the foliage in the battle so you can see what's going on, you know, around the trees. But if you don't like that, you can just uncheck it and it'll appear. Then you can do unit threat level. So when you select a unit like that, you can see that it's green, meaning that the unit's probably going to do really good against that unit. So it's good to have that to have that information. Then you have unit icons, which is the icons that showcase the weight of the unit and their weapon, and then or type of unit. And then you have the unit stat bars that showcase fatigue, morale, and ammunition. And then you have unit stat icons that showcase fatigue, or you know, with that freshness level that you see there. And you also have in the middle here, when you move a unit, let me move it, you can see if it's running or walking. So it's a lot of very useful information for you to know what is going on with a unit. Something very important that should be talked about is these bars here. I call them the unit bars. I'm not sure if they have a better title. Actually, let me see. Maybe they do. Unit icons? No. Unit stat bars. Okay, there we go. So unit stat bars here show a lot of important relevant information, right? So I want to talk about what these two bars are. The top bar is the HP. As you can see here, the unit has this much HP, which is like 60%. And this green bar here basically showcases that. So it's like an easy access for you to know how much HP the unit has left. Now, the bar below gets a bit more tricky. you might see it and at first thought you might go like, oh man, that's morale. Well, not exactly. So when a unit routes or gets to certain levels of morale, it's gonna be in different, I would call it state morale states. I'm not sure if that's the appropriate term, where they'll be like impetuous, fresh. I think steady is next maybe. I think this one might be next. Wavering, and there's here broken. So depending how much morale you have as a percentile of your base value will actually get you, after you reach certain thresholds as the morale decreases, to get you into different morale states. You can go to steady, then you can keep dropping down to wavering, and then you can start getting hit by all potential broken here, which will get you to routing. So that's as far as I'm going to take it with this. I haven't looked at the actual numbers that are tied to what decreases you to the different morale states. Maybe I just created that. I haven't heard that term before. So anyways, really good to try to study this or understand it, or just when you're in battle, you don't have to go too low level on this. Just make sure that when you're looking at the white bar, you have an idea of, oh crap, this unit's morale might not be doing too hot based upon where the morale is when the battle started. I might want to pull it back, try to increase its morale as much as I can, so I prevent the unit from potentially routing. Now, below the unit stat bars, there's these, it's like 3 little squares. The square on the right usually means like under missile fire. I have not really seen it show anything else. So the one on the left tells you how fresh a unit is. This unit is active, so it's doing really good. Let me see this one here. Actually, you can see this with this hero. She is winded. So the running little icon is like in a orange kind of color. Now, the middle square shows a lot of potential information. So when the unit's in melee, it can show you that the unit's in melee and winning, or it can be in red showing that the unit is in melee, unit losing. Now, this here, when you look at this description can tell you if the unit is losing decisively, how bad, like here it says unit winning slightly. It can give you a bit more information when you hover over the unit. Now, high threat on the top, it just tells you that this unit could be pretty bad if I engage it with a unit that I select. So that's actually something else called unit threat level here. It's very important to know. Actually, I might have talked about this in another tip. Man, whatever, dude. Just follow what I'm saying. So anyways, something very relevant to follow is that this middle icon here not only showcases the state of melee of a unit, but it also showcases when a unit is moving or not moving, and also, I can't show it right now, when a unit is hiding as well. Now, there are priorities. A unit could be doing 2 of the potential things that are shown in that square, so you could potentially not know one state that the unit is in because another icon is taking priority on that little square. So try to keep track of all these things. They are good visual cues for you to know the state of units during battle. Now, in terms of these unit stats, there's one that appears when you have missiles on a unit, and it's that little pink bar below the blue bar right there. So this will give you a good visualization of how much ammunition that unit still has left. Now, one bar that is very important to keep track of is the blue bar below the white bar. So the blue bar actually is your fatigue. So you have 2 indicators of how your fatigue is doing. You can look at the yellow legs, which means that you're tired in this situation. But right now, you are like, wait, so how much fatigue do I have left? What's, in terms of value? So if you look at the blue bar, you know that you're about 50% in your total fatigue. It is easier to keep track of when the yellow bar or the yellow legs than looking at the blue bar due to just the sheer size of it. So I'm just gonna fast forward here, and I'm gonna get exhausted probably from shooting this weapon in a bit. Come on, buddy. There we go. So you see it there. I think now I am very tired, not exhausted, not the bottom, not the lowest level, but you see now that I've reached like 25% here in the blue bar. So I am really getting close to getting exhausted. So we're gonna keep track of it. I'm very tired here. And let's see. Come on, get exhausted. Get to the very last one, the last value. Very tired still. Come on, I'm not even following what's going on with the rest of the battle. So very tired still, exhausted. So there you go. The blue bar got to the lowest level because I'm at the lowest level in my fatigue or stamina. Now, that is actually a benefit of looking at the blue bar. because the colors indicating your stamina level only they basically group up different states in the same color. So as you saw, very tired and exhausted were both red, but now we look at the blue bar and that actually indicates the difference. So you don't have to wait to hover over the actual unit here to get this description that says exhausted. You can just look at the blue bar and be like, oh crap, I'm exhausted. It is really small though. That's something that I don't like about how thin the lines below the white bar are, but just another indicator that can really help you get information faster. Now there's one more line that can appear whenever you have siege equipment, and it is actually yellow. That is actually the siege equipment's health, and it's good to keep track of this as you're moving forward and attacking a settlement. Now, if you're gonna do a siege battle in Troy, right, in custom battles, and you're like, wait, how the heck do I select the equipment? Well, when I just changed from land to siege, you might have noticed something happen here. This tab is now available. Now, it is a bit bugged here in terms of what you can see available if you haven't added or removed any units when you first go into the equipment tab. Now that I removed the unit, we can see that we can select, depending on how many available assault equipment we have, how much we can select for the battle. We can select a siege tower or we can select a bartering ram. These are two traditional type of siege equipments that we find across other Total Wars. But going back to what I was saying, we go to siege, we go back to siege, or we go to land, we go back to siege battle, and we see here, we don't see any siege equipment available. When we add a unit, bam, we can now see it. And depending on how many units you add to the battle, your labor force increases, and therefore the amount of assault equipment that you can use also increases. So it's important to keep track of this as you're selecting units to note, oh man, I have all of these units. How much available assault equipment do I have? It seems that as you add units, you are actually equipping or actually auto-equipping assault equipment as the unit is added to the army. That's important to keep track of this because you might see here, oh, I haven't selected any assault equipment. I add a unit and it's like, oh wait, what the heck? Actually, that's a good point. What the heck? There we go. Now they're occupied. Seems that it might be situational, but just keep track of that as you try to do siege battles in Troy. With the release of Mythos, we notice that there is now a realism level that lets you choose how the battle structure is created. Okay, that sentence doesn't make much sense, but you have historical, truth behind the myth, and mythological. So truth behind the myth is what the rest of this video was composed of upon its recording, which is just basically the traditional game before Mythos came out with the respective mythical creatures that each faction could play. Then you have historical, which removes any mythical aspect of the game, and then the respective heroes have now bodyguards that you can select at the bottom of the screen here. And if we go back to the last one, it's mythological, where we go back to single entity heroes like we find in Truth Behind the Myth. And then towards the bottom, we see the mythical creatures that were available for this faction in Truth Behind the Myth are also found here, but in their more mythos based mannerism. So like the centaurs are based upon the mythos version, and the Corybantes as well. But each of the factions now, when you select the mythological aspect, have the Cerberus, Hydra, and Griffin units available to be selected, so you can play with them. And if you select these units here, they don't really have like a what do you call it, a limit to which ones you can actually select. There's no a unit cap for these units. And then going back down here, and if we look at abilities, we now have a new menu here to select the respective prayer ability that you can use in the battle. And each of them have a respective amount of times that you can use them. For example, Zeus's Thunderbolt can be used twice, and then you can see the cooldown before you can use it, you know, the second time after you've used it once. So respectfully speaking, some of them have 2, some have 3 uses, and others just have 1. And the respective cooldowns for each of them can be different. But anyways, I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, want to say thank you. And I hope that at least something here was useful to you, either as a new thing that you learned or a friendly reminder of something that you might have seen years ago. I mean, I know myself, and there's plenty of things in Total War that probably I learned years ago. In fact, I might have learned it last year, and then I just totally forget about it. But it is good to go back and potentially review some things and remember them or learn them for the first time. So I really want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye.